Welcome, everybody, to Car Wash Advisories, Season 2, Episode 2 of our podcast. And with us today is Chayton and Rex, who are co-founders of Wash Metrix. And really, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think you guys bring a lot of value to the industry. Um, Rex, if you want, why don't you kick us off and get the ball rolling? Uh, you know, basically with kind of an overview of Wash Metrics and what kind of value you guys bring to the industry, and we'll start from there.
Absolutely. Dennis, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. Obviously, big fans of Car Wash Advisory, what you and Harry have done to the industry. Chade and I, yeah, we're privileged to be here and to share more about our platform. So I've got a little slide here to kind of talk to like our positioning, what our software does to help add value to car wash operators of all sizes. So we launched about a year and a half ago in the market with a car wash data analytics platform. And essentially, it integrates data from across the spectrum, some point of sale, accounting, and HRIS, which is timesheet data for labor. So you essentially have one all-encompassing, unified, consolidated operating dashboard to track KPIs across the business and ultimately site profitability. Once the platform's enabled, it pulls transactions from your point of sale historically. You can go years back to track sales trends, year-over-year performance metrics, labor cost per car, churn, growth, redemption, conversion rates, really any KPI that really matters to help make smarter, faster, more accurate decisions that affect the bottom line of a car wash's performance. The second source pulling in from accounting is really where our unique value prop comes to track the financial expenses and profitability at the site or the brand or the region or district level by pulling in the P&L data, the account and expense codes from that system into one operating framework to get a 360-degree view of your business. So site managers all the way to the C-suite, even investors, all the ops team in between can have one platform to see all their metrics in one click is essentially how we position ourselves.
And Rex, just to add to that, right, it's important to understand the history of how Wash Metrix came about. So our third co-founder, Palmer Dean, was an operator, and he left that side to come out to the dark side of software development with us. But he had a car wash operation, an express car wash operation with 3 locations, and he came to us with the problem. Invariably, like him, operators end up with multiple different point of sale systems and each having their own reporting side of things. And then you have these other systems that Rex mentioned. So he was running a problem of I have to go to 100 different places to get a true understanding of my business. And that's where, can you help us? Can we build something that I can get all in one place? That was the underpinnings of how Wash Metrix started. And just to bring that point out, that it wasn't like a software guy is designing the system. It actually came from real world problem, and it was basically had the brains or the problem of an actual operator to bring to the market.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's invaluable that you guys built this because to your point, there are a ton of different point of sale offerings. You have your strategics, you have your platforms, you have your single, double operators, and they all have the same issue, but we have a ton of different point of sales. So how do you guys feel like everything is integrating with the current point of sales offerings?
Yeah, it's a great question. So whether the clients are standardized, all running one across all locations, or if they're growing by acquisition, doing a lot of M&A where they're inheriting the seller's historical point of sale system and they end up with a multitude of different systems from Sunny's to DRB, ICS, Micrologic, and now soon to be NXT. Luckily, Wash Metrix is adaptable and integrated with all of those.
Awesome.
And so we kind of started building this in a way to where we could be supportive of what the customer needed. So if they're running Sunny's, we can plug in with Sunny's. If they're running DRB, we can plug in with DRB. We're one of DRB's certified partners. So it's been interesting to find out as they grow, we have to make sure all the data is consolidated, it's audited, it's reconciled, it's classified correctly. So whether they have one across the board or multiple, it all feeds in the same way so that the data they can trust and rely on for their planning and decision-making process.
And just to add to that, frankly speaking, Dennis, when we entered the market, our solution we were thinking was more geared towards operators who had multiple POS systems in the play. But it turned out the situation is not only just for operators that have multiple POS systems, but a majority of our clients have a single point of sale system as well. And again, it turned out that it's valuable for them to pull all the different KPIs from different tasks coming together, from different areas coming together. And if you look at it, the POS core competency is providing a good POS system that collects money, that controls the tunnel. And the other aspects of a lot of KPIs were not there, and rightly so, because they were focused on one thing. So there was a gap that we tried to fill. So just to bring back to the point that we thought that our market was more, or we were tailoring more towards the multi POS operators, but it turns out the other way is also pretty prominent in the industry.
That's awesome. So obviously I've been out of the industry for a little bit and just came back into it, but I'm starting to hear a lot of good things about NXT. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
To your point, we started hearing the same. I think it was at the last ICA show, we heard about NXT. They're like one of the first AI-driven point of sale systems that was going to be available and was servicing customers. It was adaptable to the existing hardware, so the CapEx was lower. It was a modern kind of UI and framework. So we wanted to meet them, get acquainted with them, and work with them. And then the second wave kind of came when our customers were mentioning switching to it or evaluating it and turning that on. And so on
Sure.
both fronts, we had the opportunity to meet them, Justin and the team at NXT, as well as now Motor City. And so we are building integration to be compatible with them, driven by just them being one of the best in class new point of sale systems, and us feeling really confident and strong about our best in class reporting. So I think the combined effort, which will be available in Q1 25, is going to be really powerful to help adapt to the client needs to just get reliable, accurate point of sale information, along with our accounting integration and additional KPI enhancement stuff. So I think that together, we're really excited to work on that and deliver this to the market.
And Dennis, just to add to that, our philosophy has always been that how does this industry, how do our clients get benefit from new emerging technology in the market, right? How do we
Sure.
become enablers for them to be using whatever is available as the next generation of things? And there we go. NXT came up as a natural way of that, and we want our customers to be enabled to be utilizing those new technologies as well.
Yeah. Well, and definitely we're in the age of AI. I mean, it's becoming an invaluable tool across the board. So I guess that leads me, gentlemen, to, when do you feel clients should engage with Wash
That's
Metrics?
that's an interesting question. I find it funny because in this day and age, it's like now and always. It's
Yesterday.
it's yesterday,
Yesterday.
now, always. Now there are multiple areas you need to think about. You might have a single site operator. In the previous days, where the competition was not heavy, this market was not as getting congested as it is now. It was okay for an operation to run just like it runs for a one-site operator. But with more and more washes showing up everywhere around every corner, it becomes important for even the single site operator to take a look at the data and see how effective they are to compete in the market. So that is the
Sure.
single site. The other side of the equation is larger size operators or multiple site operators. They, of course, there's the basic need of how do I get my data across all and manage my operations effectively, distributing resources effectively across my different locations, and in fact, having a healthy competition between locations to see how we can improve one location versus the other. For all that, you need data. And that is why I say it is always that you have the need for data and engage with us.
Sure.
Yeah, like we have across the customer personas that we have, like some have one site, some have in that tier of 1 to 5. Our largest has over 70 sites. There's a lot of that 10 to 30 site, multiple states, multiple operating systems, or standardized on one operating point of sale system. And I think they come to that decision point where it's like, I either hire a person to go help do this FP&A work or data consolidation, or they're operational analysts that are pulling data from multiple places to get an accurate framework to say, I need to do the following: do a site bonus based on metrics, change my pricing strategy in certain markets, adjust my labor planning and my labor cost per car. How does that play into the strategy? there's a lot of like inflection points where I think our software can either help offset that additional hire, that additional expense, or when you're bigger, the option is to go kind of build your own in some capacity, which is hiring developers and doing all sorts of things on your own custom development initiatives. So I think we can fit into either inflection point, whether you're larger or smaller. So, you know, on the win, I think at some point when they want to start kind of finding a way to help optimize their wash, we're just an available tool and application to help them do that and enable that.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because as I was, researching you guys and getting to know you guys over the past couple months, I mean, the cost of the point of sale data extraction, the human capital that's required, basically building these systems. It's not only the initial build, but then it's the updates past that. You guys are a perfect, niche. And I'm not sure if a lot of operators know you guys are out there.
Right. And this question is really close to my heart. The statement or question you made, Dennis, over there is close
Yeah.
to my heart because you always end up invariably thinking that should I go with a system like Wash Metrix off the shelf or should I build my own in-house? And that is a difficult question to answer, but at the same time, you got to look at it from the lens of core competency. The core competency of the operators is washing cars, getting their operations optimized and getting that portion of it running smoothly and as profitable as possible. Building a system, yes, they can do it, but it is a totally different pillar altogether and involves a lot of things. There are larger size organizations which do embark on the journey of going ahead and building the system by itself. But the thing that gets forgotten is it's a discipline by itself. There are a lot of parameters needed, a lot of resources needed in terms of, as Rex mentioned, hiring people. And not only if you hire, it's not just a developer. You have to hire a QA person, make sure it is tested, all the resource infrastructure that is needed, the whole software development routine. Now that is not only that, but at the same time, you're looking at getting a system like Wash Metrix up and running in 3 weeks. You've got to look at the opportunity cost, where usually when you start building a system, it takes 6 months to a year to even get to a certain point. And then the other point I wanted to point out also is that since Wash Metrix is leveraged by a number of operators, you get the herd knowledge coming in. Just like we got herd immunity in COVID, right? You got the herd knowledge coming in, feeding into different KPIs and all of those sorts of things. So you get to benefit from the changes that are being requested by the customers, which may or may not, you may not have thought about it, and you'll be able to leverage that as well. And for Wash Metrix, we make frequent releases for our customers, and they get to see new features all the time at work.
Well, and I think it's also valuable because I mean, with the dilution of talent on the operational side, because of how many car washes have been built, understanding what KPIs you need to address and giving that performance level. Now, Chaitan, would you say that if let's say you were talking with a strategic, let's say 200 plus, that was in the process of building their own internal system, but they
Right.
just realized like it's too much of a stretch, there's not enough headwinds, could you guys go in and go on top of that, or would you just push Wash Metrics in place?
Right. So I would be frank over here. On top of that would be a hard ask to do because we are a product company. And but what I would say is all these operators who are trying to build their own systems may have ideas that we would not have thought of, or our customers so far wouldn't
Sure.
have thought of. So the whole approach would be we go get Wash Metrics running with all the available bells and whistles as of today, and do a gap analysis as to what was there that was missing in the Wash Metric systems as it is today, and take that and build it into the system so that our customers can leverage the same thing, that the reason why they were trying to go on their own and build their own systems, because everyone is unique. Not everyone, it's not a cookie cutter. We realize that. And that's why there are 50 to 60 KPIs in our system. I'll come to that later at a later point as to why that's a boon and a curse. But again, to answer your question, no, we wouldn't be placing it on top of that, but we would leverage the features in there that are missing in the gap.
Sure. No.
Yeah, and like just to add to the build versus buy, like we always do the analogy of like, if you're shopping for a car, you have the option to build, the car from scratch. You're sourcing parts, you're hiring people to put it together. We're kind of the option of I go in, I lease it off the lot with a warranty, I get faster time to value. Since we specialize in this niche, purpose built just for the car wash operators workflow, um, we have found that it's usually about like a fifth of the cost, and
Sure.
it's about a 4x faster time to value from go live, from when they start and decide to embark on that project. So, building around, it's hiring people, it's buying the front end visualization software, buying a back end data warehouse infrastructure, it's QA, it's testing. Once they build it once, there's ongoing maintenance and hosting costs. There's QA, requirement gathering, updating. There's just a lot of pieces that certain teams may want to embark on that. They have the people to do it and the talent. Other teams want to put that investment back in the wash or the marketing or the branding. And so we're an option for those that may want to consider that. And we have some ROI studies to kind of show what that total cost of ownership is on one option versus the next.
Right. And one thing to add to that, not all is bad about, I'll take a bad side a little bit about Wash Metrics too, to be fair enough. There's not always bad about building your own system. The advantage, the pros you get about building your own system is you can tweak it to the way exactly like you want it. But
Sure.
again, the drawback of that is you might be looking at KPIs in a certain way that might not be the correct way of looking at it as the market looks at it. So there are pros and cons to it too.
No, that's a great point. And so on a subject close to my heart, which is M&A, how do you feel Wash Metrics would help with the M&A transactions, both on the buy or the sell side, specifically the diligence, because of how many transactions we've been seeing and what we're expecting to see in 25, 26? What are your thoughts?
So interestingly enough, and Rex, I'm stealing your thunder over here, but I'll
No,
take
I
this
want you to have it.
one. I'll be frank over here again. When we launched the system, we never thought about the M&A case would be a valid use case for a system. It came about very naturally as a case study. Two of our customers, coincidentally enough, they were engaging in a transaction amongst themselves. What happened is the seller requested us to give access to their data to the buyer. And
Oh, really?
instantaneously, once we gave them permissions, they were able to see the data as it was happening without any reports being pulled in, without any human errors of putting data into spreadsheets and things like that. They were able to
Sure.
see the data and on a continuous basis to the point. So they were very comfortable at looking at the data. On the seller's side, again, they could carve out that I only want these sites, these locations to be visible to the
Gotcha.
sellers, to the buyer side, and that's how they were able to. So the whole due diligence process got shorter. It got a little, it got error free in the sense of no human error in pulling the data. It got up to the point and not stale data pulling to a certain point of time, and it reduced the human error, not only the human errors but the human effort needed to pull all these data together
Yeah.
into a data room. So it came as a natural progression, not that it was by intention that we built the software. And I have a joke about this because whenever there's a bug in the system, we say it is a unintentional feature, right?
No, you know what? Any part of whether you're on the buy or sell side of M&A, the hardest part is getting the data, the due diligence. And so having that capability is just unmatched. That would be incredible. Rex, how do you feel about pulling the curtain back and showing the Wizard of Oz and doing a demo for us? Do you feel
I,
comfortable with that?
I thought you'd never ask. No, I would love to show it. So let me pull it up real quick. So this is the interface of Wash Metrics. We'll do just like a quick preview of it. One thing we like to point out is that just the nature of going live is pretty effortless for the customer. It requires an email to the point of sale vendor. Once that authentication and data connection is established, weeks after, usually 2 to 3 weeks, depending on certain variables, you're live with your data fully populated and all the KPIs, displayed for you. So once you log in, the workspace is configurable and customized per each user. So if site manager has access on his phone or tablet or in the break room, he can be loaded up with the KPIs that maybe he's bonused on or that he really has an emphasis on tracking. Versus, say, C-suite, any partners, district, regional guys, they can set up their group to track the sites that they're focused on. So you can create these groups on the fly and see all the data come to fruition in that case. So as it loads up, I can see the sites in my district region that I want to care about. It treats each location's transactions individually. So if I want to see the brand at large across multiple states in that example, it rolls everything up according to a timeline that I want to see. So I can one click trailing 12, last week, last quarter, yesterday, etc. And then it's broken down into different modules. So pacing is one of those, which Chayton, if you want to kind of just briefly touch on what the pacing module helps calculate, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. I'll keep it really short. Before pacing is a recent addition to our system in about a month back, and our customers are loving it. Everyone does napkin math on how they're doing today to how they would end the month with the quarter or with the year. And this is our first foray into getting into how we think it'll go. And it takes into a number of factors like your weekday traffic patterns, your weekend traffic patterns, how your billing member, what dates they're billing on, because as the recurring billing doesn't follow a linear pattern. It is some sites might be heavier on the front end of the month, some on the tail end of the month. But taking all that into account, it is calculating and giving you out. This is where you expect to be at the end of the month, end of the quarter, or end of the year, based on how you're pacing right now. So that is the pacing module that we have launched. So this is our foray into projecting things out.
Which would be incredibly helpful, especially I would think in the greenfield space and the expectations of how that store is ramping, from the point of getting CO to doing grand opening. That's incredibly helpful.
And one of the things I wanted to point out, I know this is a little bit off, but off the topic, but I mentioned the boon and curse about having the data, right? So there's so many KPIs and they're growing in the system. We have got like 50, 60 KPIs now in the system and they're constantly growing. My advice to operators would be, if you try to focus on all, it is a problem. Select the KPIs that matter to your business. And it could be different for different locations, whether it's where the life cycle stage of that location is, whether it's a greenfield just started, might have different parameters, whereas different KPIs to be monitored, whereas a mature site, different KPIs need to be monitored. So we need to hone down on which KPIs because there's so much data in the system.
So in that vein, Chayton, so if they're running, obviously there's not a huge appetite in the industry for full serve right now. The Express is the model, but if they're running Express, Flex, or full serve, you have KPIs that can address all of those needs?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense the basic KPIs are there. And I never say we have got all the KPIs because everyone likes to see different things and it keeps on growing every day.
Sure.
One of the key areas I would like to mention is labor. Labor is particularly important because the data that you get from the POS system, which your site managers might look and say, oh, I'm producing this many cars per labor hour or per dollar of labor, right? But if you go back and look at it from the financial side of things, your labor cost is much higher. It brings in your payroll taxes and different things. So having the financials pulled in and then looking at it from that lens as to what is my real cost of producing a car is really important over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and one new thing we wanted to show is this targets module. So there's different modules. There's a financial plugin, which is the integration of the point of sale with the accounting solution. And then there's this thing called targets that we just launched where, historically a budget versus actual, a synonym for what we're calling targets or a site scorecard is how some of the clients describe it. That process of gathering data into an Excel spreadsheet, setting a goal for that particular KPI, and then tracking that, it can be static, error prone. It requires human effort to put it all together. In this case, our vision was to kind of help automate that whole data collection and tracking process. So clients can set a target listed here in this column for each site and for each KPI that they want to track. And then as they go throughout the day, every hour of every day, this gets updated. Green if you've reached the target, orange if you're en route to pursue the attainment of that target, and then red if you've totally missed it. So this drives accountability for site managers, for regional district guys, VP of Ops level, and it helps the C-suite and even site team personnel just see how they're actually doing, right? Where do we set the goal? How do we reach that goal? All of this stuff is exportable as well. So their ops meetings can be pretty data driven to help make any adjustments to reach optimization that they want to get. So this is something new we're really excited about as well.
And Rex brought up an important point, static, right? Usually the tracking of these things are in a spreadsheet and it is at a point of time. Now, what usually happens is when you're evaluating your budget to actuals or your targets to actuals, it's at the end of the period. For the entire month has passed by, how are we doing right now? It is more reactive in nature. Having this data available throughout the month and looking at it makes it a little bit more proactive. And it's like, what changes can I make so that I can actually achieve my targets rather than look back and see that I missed my targets or I've overshot my targets.
Yeah, it's invaluable. I think, and just from a training perspective, to your point, Rex, where you start with, you have a lot of newer GMs in the industry right now. They're district managers, they're divisional managers, all the way up to the C-suite. There's no reason to be surprised in this day and age. And to your point, Chayton, a lot of these guys probably do stuff in Excel and have somebody dedicated to that, so it is static. So that's awesome. And they can basically customize this for whatever they want to look at. So it's no brainer.
Right.
That's really cool. That's awesome. So are you guys going to be at Southwest? Are you going to be at ICA? Are people going to be able to stop by and chat with you guys, or?
Yes, yeah, we'll be at both. The Southwest is in our backyard, so we're based in Dallas. So we'll be at that show. We'll post some of the announcements of our, detailed location on our LinkedIn channel, and then we'll also be at a booth at ICA as well. So we'd love to connect with any parties wanting to learn more, set up their own private demo, talk about their data needs or integration needs, and share more on our capabilities and roadmap. So we'll be at both events if people want to connect.
Awesome. And anybody that's listening to this podcast, if you need contact information for either Rex or Chayton, please reach out to me directly, through Car Wash Advisory, and I can make an introduction for you. Gentlemen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I think this is just a great niche product. It's great for the industry, and I can't thank you enough for your time.
Dennis, thank you. It means a lot coming from you guys, and really appreciate having us on.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. And it wouldn't be fair without me saying thank you to our customers who have shaped the product to where it is right now and are shaping it in the future, because all our product goals or all our product features come from our customers, because we can sit and design certain things in the office, but where the rubber meets the road is actually where our customers are dealing with it. So really thankful to our customers who have shaped and are helping shape the product in the future.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Have a great couple of shows. I'll see you there. And thank you again for your time.
All right, we look forward to it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much.